Perturabo is likely the second most disrespected and undervalued Primarch behind Ferrus Manus. This is only because Ferrus is the Missouri of Primarchs. If you don't live there, you forget it exists. I was guilty of overlooking him myself, but now he's got to fall into the top 3. As far as a person-to-person level, you would rather start wiping with sandpaper for the rest of your life than ever having to work for him. But if you ever did work for him, he would force you to do the best work of your life, even if it ended soon thereafter. This man carried a galactic civil war on his back. Then he didn't like management, so he left to go play Minecraft. Is he nice? No. No, absolutely not. Is he spiteful as a curb-stomped pit viper? Oh, most certainly. But he's also armed to the teeth with terrifying Big Brother energy. Not come pick you up from school because you needed a ride. No, it's literally just the bullying, and he regularly flexes it on demigods. If someone's getting out of place, he's going to grab them by the base of their skull and smash them back into it. This irritated Iron Giant will concuss you into remembering your place in the universe, and that's exactly what we're doing today. Ladies and gentlemen, Perturabo. Upon the scattering of the Primarchs, Perty got chucked onto a planet called Olympia and got to work immediately. As Rebute's home was an idealistic take on Rome, Olympia was a far more accurate depiction, dictators and all. Perty would be found climbing a mountain by some guards, and followed them into the city of Lokos to speak with its dictator, Damikos. Damikos had never seen such a paragon of martial acumen, let alone one paired with such intellectual prowess. The boy was appointed to the dictator's court immediately, the two agreeing upon a deal of ironclad loyalty for unlimited access to resources. Perty used his resources to the maximum, becoming a warlord so dominant he soon held all of Olympia in his hands and learning all there was to know about the planet. Despite this, he never once betrayed his father, even though he knew he was being used to a certain degree. And that's about where the niceties cease with the Iron Giant. It almost feels as if he's too talented, so they had to find some way to dilute his abilities, and they chose his personality. I cannot stress this enough. He is not a kind man. Any sort of pleasantries he's given out purely by coincidence. You could hire him to make the most beautiful home. I'm talking perfect in ways you couldn't even fathom. And as you're thanking him for providing you with this beacon of unimaginable glory, he would interrupt you with, "Pay me and let me be rid of you, you incompetent vessel of flesh and worthless thoughts." Keep in mind, this is his version of maintaining cordiality. He just wants to get to the point. Perty does not give a singular fuck about you or your life story. He's just here to get the job done. Since we're talking about using people as tools, I suppose that's a good enough transition to the Emperor finding him. When the Emperor finally touched down on Olympia, Perty was able to tell the 15-foot guy covered in gold who knew his full government name was probably his real dad, because the only person he'd met up to that point was all of 5 feet tall. Then, he bid Damikos a farewell because he was very much interested in working for a guy who showed up in a flying space cathedral. Upon meeting his brothers, he was very bad with social skills and never really got better, but he was able to find some common ground and kinship in a few of them. Specifically, Ferrus with their interests in warfare and engineering, Magnus with their respective hungers for knowledge, and Fulgrim with their desires for perfection. I should probably point out that his intelligence was beyond that of normal Primarchs. He's likely the smartest brother, but his judgment often gets clouded by spite and apathy. Speaking of spite and apathy, he detested the state of his legion upon his arrival. He was so disgusted by the failures he saw them to be, he demanded 1 in every 10 men shall be killed by the other 9. I don't even know what the fuck this lesson was supposed to teach. Maybe, like, the world sucks, deal with it. But they still went through with it anyway. And, they cut their ranks by 1/10. When it came down to tactics, Perty was the guy when it came to siege warfare, so much so that it seemed to overshadow his impeccable skills in engineering. The man could glance at the most intricate of technology, and within moments, he knew exactly how it worked, and he knew how to make it infinitely better than it was before. Unfortunately, the Emperor wanted Dorn to build, and he wanted Perty to destroy. So he received the worst fucking jobs imaginable. They were absolutely terrible all the time. This would stoke a fierce rivalry between the two, because Perty kept coming back from brutal, blood-soaked campaigns just to receive a text that read, "Hey, buddy, I know you haven't had time to wash the blood off your face from that impossible task, but you're getting deployed again to something way worse." Also, Dorn got the defense contract again because, I don't know, fuck you. His life was basically going to a dead-end job that you hate every single day, working your ass off because your principals demanded it, and getting no thanks at all. Your boss doesn't really like you, opportunities seem to keep on passing you up, and you descend down into a pit of bitterness. He was already a dick. This does not excuse him already being a dick. But from this point on, we can kind of understand why he's becoming more of a dick. Things were already not going well in terms of treatment, and they would only get worse. Perty got news that while he was out bringing order, the exact opposite happened to Olympia. Imagine, right now, he's elbows deep in shit, and then this news just walks up behind him and starts pushing the back of his head closer and closer into the trough. So he hightails it to Olympia to remind everyone exactly who it was that they had crossed by rebelling, and beat everyone into the ground. I'm talking giant piles of dead bodies on fire everywhere. Killing a significant portion of the population, he found himself at a crossroads, and this is where cynicism took over. He thought there's no chance the Emperor was going to let this slide, and any hopes of forgiveness were now beyond him. So he's sitting at home like, oh man, am I the problem? Am I the bad guy? Well shit, might as well just be super good at this too. My boss was kind of a dick anyways. The problem is, he directed that anger toward the Emperor, when in actuality, it was Horus who was commanding him on all those terrible missions. But I guess you could technically say the Emperor was at least semi-responsible for never stepping in and giving him a break, because he is the end-all be-all of conversation. In any case, Perturabo joins Horus in the betrayal of the Emperor, and he carries this entire civil war to come on his shoulders. Traitor Primarch needs to be bailed out, call Perty. There's a problem that actually needs to be resolved, call Perty. Fulgrim won't stop groping the demons, call Perty. Angron's running around bulldozing orphanages for no reason again, call Perty. His initial big win was on Istvan V, dropping the hammer on the Iron Hands, Salamanders, and Raven Guard legions at the start of the Civil War. He also dealt several massive blows to Rogel Dorn's legion, the Imperial Fists, both during and after the war, which we'll go into further in a minute. Before that, we need to speak on a defining moment in his life along with Fulgrim. To make a long story short, Fulgrim was possessed by a demon and brought Perty to a planet under the guise of a powerful weapon being there, but instead used him as a sacrifice. Stealing a portion of Perty's life force, he ascended into a demon prince of the chaos god Slaanesh, to which Perty responded by murdering him. From this point, Perturabo would be slowly dying until the intervention of some more chaos gods. There's a few out-of-order events I'm going to mention because I find them worth noting, but not particularly worth spending a lot of time on. Nurgle had offered a hand to Perty, to which the Lord of Iron told the Chaos God to go piss up a rope, then he punched one of his gunships to death. This was meant to show he didn't feel any desire to bend his knee for a Chaos God, despite the fact that he might be dying soon. He was also able to systematically destroy Angron's form as a demon prince, as well as his legion, while talking shit to him and face-tanking punches and axe swings the entire time. This was meant to exemplify 1, his durability, but 2, his ability to pick an opponent apart before the battle had even begun. Finally, the Siege of Terra, which we have a murky result with. Perturabo is pretty clearly winning against Dorn as the battle drags on, but then Horus got in the way. He tells Perty that Mortarion is going to lead from there on, and he needed his men to be fodder. He then saw in this moment all the reasons he disliked his father were just as apparent in Horus, and they had always considered him to be a pawn in their game. So he decided Horus can take this job and shove it, packed up his stuff, left the final front of the war. Lo and behold, Horus ends up losing, and Perturabo's just chilling on his way back home. With the Civil War finished, we can talk about the Iron Cage. The Iron Cage refers to the siege Rogel Dorn attempted on a fortress of Perturabo's invention. Perty pretty much painted Rogel eats corn the long way all over this thing, so Dorn had to destroy it and capture his brother. Typically, when you have a fort, you're trying to defend or protect something. In this case, he just wanted a giant box to murder everything that was inside or generally around it. The resulting battle would leave the Imperial Fists decimated. Most of it consisted of this conversation on their end. "Hey Dorn, everyone's dying. Can we please go home?" "I do not eat corn the long way." "Alright then, I guess we'll just die here, I suppose." The Imperial Fists would likely not exist right now if not for the intervention of Guilliman, who, for the record, said this was a terrible idea and definitely a trap from the beginning. Perty got driven off the planet, but the genetic material of 400 Imperial Fists was captured, and he then handed it to the Chaos Gods for his ascension. Now we arrive at my one prevailing issue with Perturabo: his ascension to becoming a demon prince. I understand why he finally accepted chaos. He was dying. He didn't have much options. My issue is that it doesn't make sense for several reasons. First of all, the man hates being told what to do. To him, death is a better alternative than subservience once again, like he had with the Emperor or Horus. My other problem is that the guy is a genius. If there's a way to prolong his life, he would have figured it out. If there's anyone to do it, it should have been him. Not to mention, he often expressed his distaste towards all sorts of warp-centric things, and he had denied a Chaos God's offer in the past. It doesn't make sense that he disliked one leader, went up to a second leader, and then went up further, trading for 4 leaders. Who knows, maybe he's gotten more insane enough to think that he's the one in control here. He could just look at the warp as an extension of science that could be used at his whim at this point. I don't know. Maybe I'm just living in the past too much. Regardless of what the cause was, that's the tumultuous story of Perturabo, even if the ending kinda sucks to me. I still think the guy's a riot regardless of that. There's a certain level of abrasiveness that makes things go full circle until you like someone again. And if you dislike him, that's reasonable enough. As I said, the guy is a horrible prick, but I like him because he's damn funny. He wiped the floor with Fulgrim for insulting a figurine that Vulcan gave him. That's funny. Crazy? Yes. Hilarious? Also yes, is what I'm saying here. Only 1 month between us and Space Marine 2, by the way. Alright, that's all I've got for you now. Thank you for your time. Have a good night. I'll see you on the next one.